Have you ever wondered where reality ends and myth begins? Join me in my quest to explore the truth behind the legends of things that go bump in the night. This is your host, Paige Wolstenhume, and welcome to Strange Origins. In October of 2018, The Haunting of Hill House premiered on Netflix. During the run of this show, a lot of the viewers, myself included, were perplexed by a character called the Bowler Hat Man. It was during one of the introductory scenes with Luke, one of the many children who live in Hill House, that the character of the Bowler Hat Man was introduced. He is an older man with a cane, though he doesn't use it as he floats from one bedroom of the house to the next. It was terrifying watching Luke hide under his bed while the Bowler Hat Man floated over. While I don't want to give too much away to those who have yet to see the show in its entirety, I will say something about this man that may sound strange. I've seen him, or at least a version of him, but before I get into that story, I need you to understand exactly what people mean when they say that they've woken up to see the Hat Man, because there are a few differences that I think feed into a theory that the Hat Man may not be all that bad. The Hat Man is usually described as a shadow person, someone who lurks in dark corners and can only be seen at night, usually walking into your bedroom to watch you sleep. On occasion, he wears a long trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat, sometimes a fedora or even a black hood. Sometimes he carries around a gold watch attached to his belt by a chain and will look at it before disappearing. In a few accounts, he has bright red eyes, while other times they are black balls sunken into his face. Most often, though, the Hat Man doesn't have a face, or at least not one that people can make out in the dark. He's usually been reported to stand at around 6 feet tall, but to a lot of people who have seen him, he can be between 7 to 10 feet tall. A dark, looming creature. Shadow people, which the Hat Man is usually thought to be one of, only appear for a few moments, disappearing as soon as their presence has been felt. But the Hat Man is a little different. He likes to stick around a little bit. His presence has been reported during Ouija board seances, sleep paralysis, and even during what are believed to be alien abduction encounters. Another strange thing about the Hat Man is that he only seems to appear as an omen, whether for good or bad. Sometimes he will appear before a string of bad luck, a call from the doctor, or even an unforeseen death. And other times he is seen as a warning, telling them with his presence that they need to get out of a certain situation before it's too late. To me, though, the Hat Man is something completely different. Please stay tuned after this short break to find out more about my experiences and a little bit of history on this spooky shadow man. Ever found yourself rambling on and on about a topic you're passionate about and thought, I could make a podcast about this, but were unsure of where to start? Well, I'm here to tell you from experience that it's pretty simple when you use Anchor. First of all, it's completely free, so you don't have to spend a dime on distributing your podcast. They also bring sponsors to you, and you can choose which ones you'd like to work with, so you don't have to worry about finding people to pay you to do what you love. Second, it comes in app form, so you can record while traveling, save interviews right onto the app, and easily edit and add free music into your episodes. Anchor distributes everywhere podcasts are published, so even if you have a wide range of people interested in what you have to say, they'll all be able to tune in. Also, Anchor doesn't require minimum listenership in order to earn money for your hard work, so even if you're growing like I am, you can still make a little side cash. So if you have an idea and a phone to record your voice, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. In 2001, the talk show Coast to Coast AM, which has people call in from across the United States with personal stories about their experiences on a variety of topics, usually paranormal or conspiracy theories, asked listeners to share their stories of the Hat Man. That's when people began to see that they weren't alone in their experiences. The Hat Man phenomenon really began to take off in the United States, with people finally coming out and sharing their stories about shadow people in general. It's evident, though, that there are stories about the Hat Man, or rather just shadow people, who appear during sleep paralysis in pretty much every culture across the world. Everyone has to sleep, right? In Herman Melville's 1851 novel Moby Dick, the main character Ishmael awakens to find that he can't move, something taking over his body. I think he says it better than I ever could, so I'll read a short passage. My arm hung over the counterpane, and the nameless, unimaginable silent form or phantom to which the hand belonged seemed closely seated by my bedside. For what seemed ages piled on ages, I lay there, frozen with the most awful fears, not daring to drag away my hand, yet ever thinking that if I could but stir it 1 single inch, the horrid spell would be broken. In China, sleep paralysis is often referred to as ghost oppression. Even in a 1994 paper published for, and this is a mouthful, American Sleep Disorders Association and Sleep Research Society, several scientists researched and attempted to shed a light on ghost oppression, freely using this term throughout their paper. This combining of words dates back to the Eastern Han Dynasty, between AD 30 and AD 123, where the words ghost and oppression were written together to describe a sleep paralysis-like experience. This makes sense, seeing as in East Asian culture, ghost oppression is believed to occur when a person's soul is vulnerable to evil spirits while they sleep. The Romantics, who I seem to have mentioned in almost every episode up to now, believe strongly in the idea of demons or shadows who attack sleepers. A great example of this is the painting The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, which depicts a woman in a white nightgown, unable to move while laying splayed out on a chaise. On top of her sits what looks like a gargoyle, but what is referred to as an incubus. This creature looks as though he's made of stone, which is fitting as sufferers of sleep paralysis often complain of feeling a heavy weight on their chests, making it hard to breathe. There is also a horse in the background, which I had always found odd, but this is due to the fact that in certain European countries it is believed that a female horse will come and sit on you at night, causing you to be unable to move. In Germany this is referred to as a Nachtmare, or in English a night horse. This is actually where the word nightmare comes from. Though I can't be certain what I witnessed personally was Hat Man himself, I can identify a bit with people who have had experiences with shadow people. When I was about 12 or 13, I would on occasion wake up in a panic at about 2 or 3 a.m. It would be pitch dark in my bedroom, because that's the only way I could fall asleep. But somehow I could make out the shape of a large man looming over my bed staring at me. Really, he would just be standing, not moving, but my fear of him was so strong that I thought that he was inching closer to me, so naturally I began screaming. I've rarely had occasion to scream like that, but when I do, it tends to wake the dead, which is what happened to my poor sister, who slept just down the hall from me. The first time I was awoken by the Hat Man, she woke up terrified that I was being murdered in my bed and that she was unable to do anything. What's different in my experience with the Hat Man is that he wasn't really wearing a hat, but rather a hood. A black hood that wrapped around his head and draped down his shoulders all the way to the floor, kind of like a Dementor in the Harry Potter universe. I'm not sure how I knew that he was wearing a hood, as every time I wake up to him he is simply just a black figure in a pitch black room. But somehow I knew. I can't really explain it. After a few of these experiences, I stopped having night terrors until my first year of college about 6 years ago. Stressed out from moving away from home, living with strangers, and finding out that I had signed up for all the wrong classes, I went to sleep one night. At the time, I shared a room with an old friend of mine, who probably regretted moving in with me, and honestly, I don't blame her. I woke up about 30 minutes later, my roommate yelling out my name, begging me to stop screaming. I had seen him again, and this time it had felt as if he was larger, and also closer to me, inching forward more quickly. I had woken the other people in my apartment with my screaming, so much so that one of my roommates had assumed that I was being brutally murdered 2 doors down from her. They all would be talking about the incident for a few days afterward, and honestly, I don't blame them. To me, my reaction was normal, but to them it was strange and frightening, and they didn't understand it at all. It's not that I'm not frightened by the person leaning over my bed, but at this point, I've kind of grown used to him. Though it does feel invasive, I've never been harmed by the Hat Man, and I have a strong feeling I never will be, though he has been reported by others to have jumped on them or grabbed them. I've never been able to tell why he appears to me when he does. There have been no deaths that have occurred right after his arrival, or even accidents. The rational part of my brain says that he is simply just a side effect of stressful periods in my life, where schoolwork, lack of sleep, and stress eating have culminated in a glitch in the brain. But in the back of my head, I also hear a little voice telling me that he appears for a reason, and I may just have to wait a while to find out what that reason is. People say that a scientific explanation for the seeing of shadow people is simply just sleep paralysis, or rather your mind playing tricks on you. During the REM cycle of sleep, the brain paralyzes muscle function so that you don't end up acting out your dreams of winning a boxing match or jumping out of a plane, only to wake up having jumped out of a window. But sometimes your brain can mess up. Sometimes you can be awake, but at the same time unable to move your muscles. It's not too uncommon of a glitch to happen, with WebMD stating that 25% to 50% of people have had at least one occurrence of sleep paralysis, and around 6% experience it on a regular basis. So it's really not too far of a stretch to say that a lot of cases of shadow people may just be a nightmarish glitch in the brain caused by too much stress or a little too much sugar before bedtime. But why are visions of shadow people, and even the Hat Man, so similar across stories? People theorize that it's because the Hat Man looks a bit like a lot of ghosts or creatures that are featured in horror films time and time again. Think Freddy Krueger with his wide-brimmed hat, or any number of black shadow ghosts that creep from corner to corner in shows like The Haunting of Hill House. Even Hill House had a character that suffered from sleep paralysis, and who saw what I think is a far more frightening creature than the Hat Man. That is, the bent neck lady. It's not comforting, though, realizing that the Hat Man and shadow people have been seen long before television or films were able to put those ideas into our minds. Maybe it's the fact that tall men, usually in uniforms including a wide-brimmed hat, have historically been men with power. They've had the power to do whatever they have liked without consequence. Or maybe the Hat Man takes on this shape in order to create a sense of protection, but fails at calming those he's watching over. There are stories of the Hat Man appearing as a warning to people to get out of dangerous situations while there's still time, telling them with his presence that they are around dangerous people. One woman even claims that he appeared to her while she was in a relationship with a man who would later turn out to have violently assaulted several girls. Personally, I see the Hat Man as an entity closer to Thanatos, the Greek god of death, or even the Grim Reaper, than to a demon wishing harm upon people. This is based more on stories I've read and my own personal experiences with him, though, so don't take my word for it. All I know for sure is that the Hat Man has been around for a very long time and must have a purpose in this world. Otherwise, what's the point? I want to thank anyone that took the time out of their day to listen. My hope is that this podcast is the least bit entertaining or educational. I would absolutely love to be able to hear from you, and to know what topic you think I should explore next, or whether you have experiences of your own that I can share. I am working on building an Instagram page for Strange Origins. For now, you can find me anywhere that Anchor.fm distributes to, including your favorites such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Radio Public. If you would like to support this podcast and help it to grow into something bigger, please visit my Patreon page, which is listed in the description of this episode. And as always, guys, remember to keep it strange.